Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today I wanted to go over the changes from the Season 1 Plus update for how you can go about, but specifically what the restrictions are for where you can place core fortresses, how alliance fortresses work, having to be connected to territory, and then what are those restrictions and what can you do, and then how has this impacted the game, along with, and at the very end, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on what I think could be the case and maybe should be the case going forward with how the map works, how core fortresses can be placed, and then do a little bit of a powwow on that front. So as always, before we get started, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. And of course, if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description right down below. Okie dokie. I also want to give a big shout out to Ninja from POS here on SS1-1 because he was helping me kind of talk through and walk through what I thought was some of the situations for how to go about placing certain things, and he was able to help me with some clarification. So again, thank you. I do always appreciate anyone that I am able to do some think tanking with and back and forth. One of the great things about being able to engage within a community is you have a lot of resources. Okie dokie. So let me start off first with how core fortresses essentially work and operate within a kingdom. Since the update, you can now only place core fortresses in Zone 1, right? So that's essentially any of the kingdoms that are on the perimeter, right? Now, if we were to, let's say, do a little bit of a deeper dive here, we could go book, and then we'll do explore. So here we go, right? To kind of give you an idea, you can place a core fortress in any of these Zone 1 regions. So Zoland, Forgotten Lands, Darland, Nivola, Sophrostia, Caltia, and Burning Lands. However, you do need to have access to those Zone 1 regions via either capturing a level 1 pass or having a union with an alliance that has a level 1 pass captured, and then you can also place your core fortress there. You cannot place core fortresses now, as far as placing them freely, right, in Zone 2 and Zone 3. You can place alliance, and now we get to alliance fortresses. Alliance fortresses you can place in any region, in any zone, let me say that specifically, right? So you can do Zone 1, Zone 2, which is Lorcan, Agoru, Hollandale, or Zone 3, Atherin. But the kicker is that with your alliance fortresses, they have to be placed connected to territory. So let me give you an example here. If we zoom out of the map, and again, some of these things we're going to have to look at. So you can notice here, right, and we'll just show you a quick visual. If I was to click on GOK, Core Fortress. If I was to click on UNT, Core Fortress. If I was to click on, here you go, OFUX, right? Ooh, hang on, that's an alliance. This is probably the core over here. Yeah, so Core Fortress, right? Just to kind of give you an idea. APK, oh, that's let's find YFT. Oh, wow. Oh, you know what? Hang on, theirs is probably over here. Yeah, so bam, Core Fortress, right? So you're seeing Core Fortresses in Zone 1. Now, let's go to Zone 2. So if we go to Zone 2, which is Agoru, let's see if we can find any forts that have been placed in Zone 2. I don't see any. How about any that have been placed here? Okay, here we go. So now you're going to see Alliance Fortress, right? Let's look at POS over here, Zone 3. Alliance Fortress. Let's look at, here we go, here's Zone 2 for BDN. Alliance Fortress, right? GRZ, ooh, hang on, no, that actually might be, yeah, Nivola. Hang on, I'm tripping. Let's go over here to Hollandale. And here we go, UEH, Alliance Fortress. So it just goes to show you that, and notice how you have to have everything be connected, right? It has to, you cannot place an Alliance Fortress randomly. It has to be at the end or connected to a flag, essentially. So that is pretty much how the fort system works for an alliance, and then how you can use that on the map. Now, let's touch on, if we can, what do I think the system should be, right? Are there any opportunities? Are there any improvements that can be made for how we can go about working with that? This is my feel on it. First off, I want to compliment, let me say this first. I want to compliment the change that CoD has made, that the developers have made to change the way that it works. This, to me, when it comes to Zone 2 and Zone 3 is a lot better because you essentially have to flag out to everything, right? I do like that. Not where you can just forward place a CF in front of a pass or forward place a CF near the Flame Dragon and just, run out there and you see who can build it the fastest, right? I mean, I like the idea because this is something that we've been seeing from the game where they're really trending in that direction of they want you to build out your territory and fight from that territory. The other reason I like this is because if you have to fight out from your territory, battles can last longer. Wars can last longer. Because now you're not doing some type of fort drop right near someone's other fort or in the middle of their flag territory, and then you're just disconnecting lines. I like the idea of you having to basically take their flags down one by one if you want to eventually get to one of their forts. This will make, as I said, battles take longer. It'll also give the players that are getting attacked more opportunities to resist, to counter, to regather themselves and then try to re-engage in a fight. And that, to me, is something that I think will allow for better, or we can just say more longevity, right, throughout a skirmish, right, throughout a battle. Now when we get to kind of Zone 1 and the fact that you can place a core fortress anywhere in Zone 1, this to me is somewhat 50-50. I say that because let's look at it on the one hand. If on the one hand you are able to place a core fortress anywhere in Zone 1, anywhere within a Zone 1 region that you have control of and or have a union with another alliance for, right? Sure, it's nice to be able to play and to play things out in that sense, where you can build a core fortress and then we kind of have to talk about the roads too as well, right? Remember, you're limited to 1,500 kilometers of roads in the game, and so if you think about placing a core fortress here, the idea of you being able to flag all the way around Zone 1, that's a little challenging. However, what I want to point out here is that this is why, and I'm going to say something on what I would consider to be just a solid fix going forward. And yes, even though it may take a little bit longer to kind of get to those points, this is something that I think will help the game in the long run, right? And I may make a separate video on this, but I want to state this because I do think it's very connected. The way that they really should be doing the zone opening, something that would just correct or just fix the entirety of the system, is if you, right, and here's two ways you can approach it. One, this is my recommendation. What they do is you treat it kind of how Rock's KVKs work, right, where you allow for Zone 1 to be the place where everyone has to stay, right? And the way, instead of how they have it now, which is kind of resembles Infinity Kingdom's KVKs, where when you go into their KVKs, the moment that the Zone 1 adjacent passes or the Level 1 adjacent passes open, you basically can just terrorize everyone, right? And what happens is that when you do that, it can demoralize a lot of players early on, and it doesn't increase the player participation or engagement rate. It only decreases it. Why? Because you're basically burning everyone, and for the people that just are PvP hungry, you're just really, again, demoralizing people and also killing off a lot of their troops to where they could have been fighting in a more, I don't know if I want to say equal, but fairish capacity. And because everyone is essentially starting in Zone 1, you basically have the opportunity to hit 100% of all the players. So how it really should work, in my opinion, is where they make it so the way that the passes open are in more of a Rock KVK progression style, where you open up Level 2 passes first, right? So everyone is basically kind of limited to their Zone 1 region. You open up Level 2 passes first, going into Zone 2. Then you open up Level 3 passes going into Zone 3. From here, then players, once they flag through Zone 3, could then attack other Level 3 passes and go into other Zone 2s, right? And then they could even flag into other Zone 1s. And then, at the very last part, you then make it so that way the Level 1 adjacent passes can then be attacked. So that's the order it should go in. It's level 2 passes to get to zone 2, level 3 passes to get to zone 3, and then at the last part, you open up the level 1 adjacent passes, or just the level 1 passes. And that's how you should do it. If you do it this way, then really keeping the CF, the way the CF operates in place, I think would be okay. I think that's a nice first step to do before you potentially try to limit the way that the CFs work. The other way to approach it, if we look at kind of option or what do I want? Idea number 2, there we go. Idea 2 could work where if you want to keep everything intact, you make it so that way CFs can only be built and only be placed within your starting region, right? Your starting zone 1 region. Or you can make the argument, right, and this is kind of the branching effect. You can either make it the starting zone 1 region and or the adjacent zone 1 region. So let's say I started in Zoland. I could build a CF in Forgotten Lands or Burning Lands, but I could not do it in Daraland, Nivola, Sophrosty, or Kaltia, right? Because they're not adjacent ones. So that's kind of a variation of how you could do it. But if you wanted to try to limit it to here, then what that also will do is it makes it so you can only flag out so much, right? To a certain area, like it probably wouldn't be optimal to try and flag all the way from Zoland to Sophrosty or to Kaltia and go all the way around. In addition, I also think, and this is maybe just the last note I'm going to mention, right? The 1,500 kilometers of flags that you can do just does not seem to be enough, right? Personally, I think they really should extend that, right? With and really we're talking roads, right? The 1,500 kilometers of roads that you can do. To me, it just seems like, hey, it'd be nice if you could maybe build some more. I know a few people I've talked to have said they would love for this limit to be increased when it comes to the roads. Maybe something like 2,000 might be a nice just step up, right? But again, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Again, I'm not playing with an alliance currently, so, I like to refer to, at least for those types of specifics, for what I'm visually seeing on the map, for how far alliances have extended, along with feedback from those who, again, are either officers or leaders in alliances and are noticing some of these restrictions or maybe limitations or limited capacity to build. So for me, I think those are nice to be able to share, right, when I'm able to hear that from the community. And again, I'll probably maybe do some type of questionnaire or something in the future, but it is something that I think we are hearing consistently enough that, the road limit would be great to be increased. Again, I'm sure some people would say, hey, let's increase that by double, right? Maybe 500 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers seems to be a nice, maybe first step, right? Maybe take it in baby steps and then, see where that goes. With all of that in mind, that is it for me. Again, I know we talked in the first part of the video about how to approach your alliance fortresses and your core fortresses, and then kind of getting into my pros and cons thoughts on how I'd like to see the progression play out, and then finally getting to where we are now, where we talked a little bit about flags and road limit restrictions. I hope, again, you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is anything I'm saying making sense? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why or why not? And then again, do you have another idea, maybe another approach, right? I'd love to hear that. Again, as you guys know, I love reading all of my comments and responding to at least as many as I'm able to on a daily basis. Okie dokie, artichokies. That is going to be it for me finally. As always, until next time, I will catch you later.